Hello ladies and gentlemen, Captain Shaq here, and welcome to Act of Aggression. A game that reminds me, it's really bringing back the nostalgia actually, of the old Command & Conquer days. Command & Conquer, Red Alert 1 and 2, old Westwood games that coined this gameplay. And this one, it nails a lot of the bits that I loved about it, but it doesn't quite make it all the way there as the next Command & Conquer franchise. For me, it's missing some of the stuff that made those games great, but it is a lot of fun. So just bear with me on this first impressions because I just spent 8 hours streaming this and I haven't had a break. I thought, you know what, come right off the stream, do my first impressions, best time to do it. So let's get into it. Act of Aggression, well, what is it? Well, it's a strategy game that plays just like the old Command & Conquer games, and yes, it does have a campaign. You get 2 sides to play as. There is actually 3 sides in the game to play as in multiplayer and skirmish. And then when you play through these campaigns, Chimera, the Cartel. Chimera campaign actually has you playing as the U.S. Army and the UN, which is Chimera. Whereas the Cartel is one, so far in the campaign at least, it's only the 1 unit. But if you go to skirmish, there are 3 sets to choose from. It does say U.S. Army. This is kind of a mistake. It's actually the U.S. military, like the full military. There are the Marines represented, the U.S. Air Force is represented, well, everybody but the Navy, which I mean, I guess you could say the Marines are part of the Navy, so everybody but the Coast Guard is really represented in this. And then you've got the Cartel. The sides that you play as are actually quite different. So what I'm gonna do is, let's go ahead and leave this. Let's load up. Well, first let me show you guys one thing that I rarely show in these, the options menu, because I have to say, there are plenty of options for people playing. When you're playing on your PC, you can max stuff out, and it has a bit that'll let you test to see what your computer should be set at to run it well, and I recommend you do that. Well, anyways, let's go ahead and get into this. So I'm gonna load up one of my skirmish matches, and I'm gonna talk about the different sides and how they work. Actually, let's just launch a skirmish as the U.S. Army. U.S. Army versus the Cartel. We'll put them on very easy, and I'll just talk about some of the game mechanics. Now, the 3 sides are different. The U.S. Army side has, its units are very specialized, right? The infantry, the tanks, they have one job, and they do it really, really well. Now, some of the units can do a little bit of research to make them dual purpose. Maybe they'll be able to do a little bit more damage to, say, air units and do their main role of taking out ground units, but for the majority of the vehicles, it seems like they are super specialized. Whereas the UN or Chimera, those guys, I'm finding my resource points right now, this is aluminum, but the UN, Chimera, those guys are super, they could do, you'll find their vehicles can multi-role like a boss. I mean, they're really good at it. Let's go ahead, build our barracks up. I'm gonna actually build it right here. The US will spread out a lot where the other races basically won't. I keep saying races for some reason. Sides, factions. But this is how you get resources. You find them on the map, you select your base, you grab the refinery, and all sides have a refinery, and you place it so it takes up as many of the resource nodes as possible. In multiplayer, you'll notice the maps are super balanced. They're basically mirror matches against each other, and all the resource points are just like this, where you'll be able to fit it just barely onto the point. I guess they want the game to be competitive and balanced, so they don't have any crazy maps on there, at least none that I've played so far. Continue to scan. 3 resources that you're going to be wanting to collect, and I have to say, the models on this are great. My little truck running out there to build that. The 3 resources, though, are oil or just dollars. You get those from mining oil, which are these points right here. You get aluminum, which is what you're seeing over here. I'm about to put my second aluminum refinery down right now to mine that up. Send my scout out. Only your scout with this little symbol can find this stuff. Each side has a scout, though they're different. The Cartel gets one that's actually a helicopter, which is kind of cool. Actually, everything they do involves helicopters. So here we go. I just built this building, right? When the building finishes, a builder, like an old MCV from Command & Conquer, pops out. This is actually a modified Abrams chassis, is what it looks like. Is going to run out here and deploy this refinery. So I've already paid for him. He is literally the resources that I built for this building. And what does that mean? It means that if an enemy spots one of those trying to go out, like I say, I'm trying to build a refinery way out here, and you may want to do that to spread out. If an enemy sees that vehicle, they can kill it and kill the building in doing so before it's ever built, which is kind of cool. The game has a neat supply line mechanic that I do dig. I really do. I think it's an improvement to the basic Command & Conquer franchise. We're gonna put a couple power plants down. They do exactly what you think they do. If you ever played Command & Conquer, the U.S. Army has gone green though. These are solar panels. When you first start out, you will be able to get a higher grade generator later on. Let's go ahead and get ourselves some Marines. So here's the basic Marine unit. We'll just build one of each. A Marine, a Javelin, this is the anti-tank missile launcher unit, the Stinger, and then a mortar team. Why not? And we'll take a look at what they can do. U.S. Marines can capture buildings. They are good at taking out enemies that are inside buildings. They can occupy them. And they're cheap. They are cheap to build. They're pretty legit. I love the infantry as the Americans. They're actually fantastic, especially the Javelin. Like I said, this guy isn't going to kill any infantry anytime soon, but he will kick the shit out of some vehicles with that Javelin missile launcher, and you can see he's got it there. You'll find that the sides, the U.S. in this is traditional military units. These are real world tools. This is a Stinger missile. They have these in the U.S. military. This is the mortar team, right? M2, what is it? 252A, 81 millimeter rocket mortar. Anyways, indirect mortar, it will fire, and look at this. I'm gonna go out into satellite view here, drone camera, by just scrolling out. That's his range. I'm trying to get better at actually using my artillery, because it's a tool that you should definitely take advantage of. Let's get a ground vehicle structure up. First, I want to get a hospital up. I want to talk about one of the other cool mechanics that are in this. And let's get a vehicle structure. Nah, it's a barracks. We want the light vehicle factory.
Maximum storage reached.
Get that online as well. To go up in the tech levels, you notice I've got 3 levels of tech, but I can't build Tech 2 and Tech 1. I can only build Tech 3 or DEFCON 3. You do this research here. It's just a click in resources and bam, you're in it. Some more resources up here. I'm gonna go ahead and grab those. Notice my bar on the top though. I talked about the 3 resources. I talked about the dollars. I talked about the aluminum. And the rare resource you're gonna get when you need Tech 3 or Tech 1 stuff, your DEFCON 1 stuff, is the rare earth minerals, the red minerals. Which you'll get later on in the game. That's how you build your super weapons and get some of the really, really good upgrades. But they're just a little harder to find. Like there's some right there, the rare earth minerals. I've already found some. But the last thing is power. Just like Command & Conquer, if you run out of power, your defenses will turn off, your buildings will shut down, things will build slower, and you're gonna wanna get more power plants online. At least for the, actually it's for all of them. But my bar here, my blue bar has just filled up. That is my stockpiled resources, and I can only hold so many. And I just maxed it out with aluminum. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna build a supply point up here. I'm just throwing it down. Supply points, all the sides have them in one way or another. The American one, well, it'll expand my build radius. This is why American bases get really sprawling, where UN buildings don't do this. UN buildings, they get FOBs, basically. They get forward operating bases that allow them to build farther out. They give them power and they stockpile stuff. What's also cool is you can actually see the stockpile. I have a lot of aluminum. Those are aluminum boxes there. So an enemy can see if you're stockpiling anything particular. Maybe you're trying to go high tech into something. Build a couple more of the vehicles so you can see the models. I'll talk about how they work. So what I wanted to build was this. This is a hospital, but it's more than just that, because it's the U.S. Army. This is how you take advantage of one of the really cool mechanics in this game. When you get into a firefight with an enemy, and say you wipe them out, they may have wounded left over on the battlefield. If you shoot down an enemy helicopter or a vehicle, they may have pilots that have been, that have evac'd. The difference between the two is basically a pilot is still mobile and he can try to get back to base on foot, or you can go pick him up in a helicopter, whereas wounded can't move and they'll have to have a medical vehicle come out and get them. Now, if an enemy captures your wounded or your pilots, they will be POWs, and they'll be stored in, if you notice this building back here, yes, that is a prison. And there's the prison yard and everything, like it's pretty cool. They'll be stored back here and they'll actually generate a resource for you. And if you can't see this right now because I'm not DEFCON 2 yet, or DEFCON 1, but I can trade POWs for money. Just one more layer into the classic strategy. Also, this building for the Americans builds the Black Hawk helicopter, which is the medical helicopter in this, and it heals infantry within a radius around it. Also can transport a crap ton. One of my favorite units in the game. We could grab these guys up. I'll show one more of the mechanics while we're doing this. Of course, I'm not playing this match to be competitive. I'm not going to win against them. We're not going to do the whole match either because I've got a couple more maps I want to load up. I just want to show some of the mechanics off. If I DEFCON up, if I go up my tech tree, so we'll go ahead and pay for that, I will be able to make snipers and Delta Force. Load it up. Oh, the American audio for the infantry and vehicles are absolutely ridiculous. I just want you guys to know this. There's stuff like, I got 122 millimeters of freedom right here. Shit like that you'll hear, which, you know, having been in the military, it makes me chuckle. It's like, who the hell actually talks like this? American vehicles, here's the American light vehicles. You're gonna use a lot of striker craft of different varieties, anti-aircraft, anti-tank. You also get Humvees that can carry infantry. I do love that, and they have customization. You can pick and put on like a tow missile. You can put on a the grenade launcher, which is great for taking out light vehicles and infantry, and then you can go straight on freaking infantry and helicopters with the larger machine gun. But yes, that is an armored transport. You can put people in it, and there is an upgrade for that too. A lot of upgrades in this. But let's roll out. One of the ways that you get money in the different maps, if you're playing multiplayer or in a skirmish, and in some of the campaign maps, is by taking over banks. Yeah, this is a bank right here. This works exactly like, I think it was the Command & Conquer oil fields that you could take over, I believe. You did it with engineers, but in this one you do it with infantry. There's a little bit of a bug or something with the helicopters. Sometimes they don't want to drop troops. Horrifically annoying when you're in a firefight and you're trying to hot drop infantry into combat. It just doesn't work out. I can't put my mortar team in the building, so I'm just going to put him back here. Mortar teams have a huge radius to fire. But now that I control this, the more people you have in it, the more money you'll get. You'll notice I'm taking 25 credits a second now. So holding the banks is going to make you, no pun intended, all the pun intended, it's going to make you bank. So we just took it. You have to leave them in there though. So you can roll out. As for other kinds of vehicles that you'll get and how the game kind of shakes out in the late game, especially as the U.S. Army, you can build some really awesome air units. I love how air units work in this. I'll even flop a couple down so you can see me calling some airstrikes if we've got enough money here, which we might. Yeah, we'll have enough to get one of the air traffic control units up. I might not have enough power for this, actually, because I haven't built a single power plant. Once that comes online, I may lose power.
Construction impossible.
Construction impossible. Yeah, probably. I think these take 2 apiece.
Building completed.
Building completed. 0 power, and that's going to put me under. So hopefully we get one of these power plants online. I had the choice of 3 air units as the U.S., which I think all the sides get a choice of 3 air units. Nope, there we go. Just lost power. So if I had turrets and defensive bunkers and stuff, they would have lost power. But there goes our builders out. Nice. Power should be back online. There it is. Let's build ourselves a couple F-35s and we'll do a airstrike if we possibly can. So, you're probably wondering, what's the difference when you get 3 units? Well, the F-35B Lightning, these are real-world aircraft, by the way. The F-35 is able to attack ground vehicles. Pretty awesome. The Raptor F-22 is air superiority fighter. It'll run in, and if there's an enemy aircraft in the area that you gave it a mission to go to, it will shoot their asses down. And there are different versions of these for each side. I personally love the US's version better than any other side when it comes to air power. I go mad for air power in this. Let's go ahead and take our forces. We need to find an enemy. I want to bomb an enemy, so let's go find them. Aye, aye, sir. But I can give a mission. Oh, here we go. We got an enemy unit right here. Just told my aircraft to move out. My aircraft will spawn at the edge of the map normally from the corner of my base. There he is. He's a stealth unit, that's why you can kind of see through him. And he will fly until he sees an enemy, and then he will fire his missiles. There's his ammo, there's his fuel.
Unit is under attack.
Let's keep him going. I can command him. I can tell him kind of where to go and change his course, but they take wide turns. Now, this is only one of these. When I play, I like to build 9 of them and call in serious airstrikes. Oh, look at that. We just lost a helicopter, and we've got 2 downed pilots. Oh, there's the air. So he just launched his air. Oh, sad for him. He ran into a bunch of anti-aircraft tanks. That sucks. But, like I said, you can capture people. Now, here's my downed helicopter and a couple of my pilots. And now I've got to get them back to base. The enemy gets them. They'll have more income coming in. Whereas, if I can get them back, I will get a little bit of my money back if I return these prisoners of war to my base. And pilots are mobile. I can order them around. They don't give a lot. Oh, looks like these boys got taken out. 2 more pilots. I can set up this mortar. Probably smarter to set it up away from the enemy. It's like I'm out of range anyways. Enemy holds this bank, so now I'm shelling it with my mortar team.
Maximum storage.
Kind of cool. Nothing we haven't seen before, though. Alright, so let's load up one of the other factions, and I can show you guys what they have to offer. There's more vehicles and units in this. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of how some of the sides work. Let's launch the Cartel. Continue. So the Cartel are the oddballs, right? They're the Brotherhood of Nod. They're the Eldar of this game. They've got some of the neat but weird mechanics. This is still fairly early in a match. Sadly, guys, I'm sorry I can't show you a lot of late game stuff. They patched the game after I had gotten all my saves for late game sides to show you all the cool stuff, and now I can't load those old saves. So I do apologize for that. But these guys aren't... They're weird, but they're not terrorists, right? They're not the terrorist organization. They're actually a PMC. They're a private military company. So they're funded by big corporations, and they've got all the cool shit. Like normally in a strategy game, if we're all honest, the US or the UN, whoever the allies are, normally get the really high technology, the really cool crap. But in this one, it's the PMCs. You can see him running out of his high-tech building. They're the glass cannons as well. They don't have the armor. Their stuff is high-tech, easy to break, but devastating if they get their shot off. One of the cool mechanics about them, though, is everything that they do is based on helicopters. This is my refinery. It's using helicopters to transfer the goods between the 2 points. And if I get my tech up, I can actually cloak my buildings and cloak the majority of my base. It's nuts. I can build a couple more of these max tankers to transport resources faster. It does give them a little bit of an advantage. They don't have to worry about all this terrain being in the way or using the roads. The roads do give speed boosts, and your units will try to use them during a fight to get to and from points faster, so it is a good idea to defend the roads, blockade them a little bit. So some of their, this is their anti-air like cannon. Look at the domes. I think that was an upgrade I actually researched into. They're units or PMC contractors, so they're like, well, straight up a contractor. This guy right here. What makes me laugh is the weapon he's holding is actually a very tiny SMG that they're normally using for tank crews, and they've made it huge for them for some reason. Got a law launcher on here for the Viper soldier, and then this is the anti-aircraft soldier, and I could just take this bank and make some money off of it real fast. But all the sides get super weapons. These guys get the ion cannon-like weapon, which is really fucking cool. The US gets nukes. What is the UN? What does Chimera get? They get a cannon-launched weapon of some kind. But yeah, they get some really neat stuff here. Like, they get a helicopter, they get a super hind, they can drop napalm bombs. I mean, some really crazy shit. Let's get into a fight, though.
Storage capacity has reached its maximum.
Storage capacity has reached its maximum. All right, well, let's just build another extension module. You'll find Cartel players will have these fucking everywhere. This is how you store resources. You can see I've got a ton of them here. I like how they build, too. They have these giant helicopters pick up the crate and move it into position, which allows them to build stuff, like I was saying, across the map fairly quickly.
Building completed.
Let's roll out, get into a fight. Rolling, rolling, rolling. Running over trees, we don't give a shit. Though when you do run over stuff like this tractor, it'll take a little bit of damage.
Building completed.
Little bit, it's not much. But it means a lot when you're trying to get that last Abram that you've got to a repair facility, and he's got 9 health left. You can barely see the sliver, and he decides to run over a fucking Ford Taurus and blow himself up. Yeah, I'm a little bitter still. I'm not gonna lie. Let's get them on the road so they go faster. Head this way. What are your orders? Keep on rolling and find the enemy and destroy them. And you can extend, build multiple bases and all that jazz. Here we go, here's the fight. So you'll notice they're dying really fast, but when they do get the shot off, bam, they do some serious damage. Fire, fire, fire. These are anti-aircraft cannons, by the way, but they're actually doing pretty good against these light strikers. Oh man, oh man. Now if they would have grouped together. One of my biggest complaints about this game, if you notice they weren't grouped together and I told them to move together, is the way, oh shit, finish him off quickly. he's still wrecking you, is the way that units move together. There is no real formation system in this game. I hate to say this, but it's such an irritant. Say you're playing the US Army, right? And you've got Abram heavy tanks, the main battle tank of the United States. And you've got a couple of Stryker anti-aircraft. These are light APCs. And then you've got a few Humvees that are good for anti-infantry, and maybe you've got a couple tow Humvees in there, but they die really, really easily, so they need to be kept to the back. And then you've got a repair unit. And you want to move them. Well, what'll happen was you'll tell the group to move. I wish I had an actual group to show this. You'll tell the group to move, though. The light vehicles are faster, so they'll immediately just rush to the point and die. The repair vehicle will be faster, so he'll be next, and then he'll die. And then you'll get everything but the heavy armor. And then all the people who could have actually taken the shot, all the armored units, they'll show up last and then die because all their support is gone. And this happens all the time. Even when you're taking a group like this and telling them to go 10 feet, you'll find a clusterfuck. It really turns into a clusterfuck, and it's so frustrating. So what you're going to end up doing is micromanaging your force. That means you're focusing on an area this big instead of an area this big, trying to fight the actual fight. It's very frustrating. You'll end up like grouping them together. So you'll be like, all right, here's group 1, the armor's gonna be group 2. Okay, now I wanna move the armor forward. Now I'm gonna move the support forward. I'm gonna move my air forward, my anti-air forward. Now, all right, I've moved 100 feet, time to move again. That's what I found happened to me over and over. And I was like, God, if they would just have a logical formation system in this, even a simple one, where if I group you together, I want you to move together, and I want it, yes. I could go on for this for a while, but that's an issue that I will complain about. And I think you guys will run into that too. I'm not saying the game isn't fun, it's just one of those things. Let's load up the UN, right? Holy shit, Bob will win. Anybody who is watching the live stream knows exactly what this is. Running joke in the live stream. Excuse me, my throat's a little sore from all day streaming. I had this infantry member who was in the middle of my army. There he is, right there. There's Bob. And he wouldn't die. He would not die. Move his whole force forward. You guys will kind of see what I'm talking about. We got some nice T-72 Russian tanks in here. These aren't vehicles you can build. They were just in this campaign map. This is part of the campaign. I'm playing as the UN forces. Now, these are the guys who are multi-role. Like, they're so multi-role. Like, okay, these are my anti-aircraft units. They can shoot down missiles and they can shoot at tanks and do relatively decent damage. And that's just one unit. Now that is fully upgraded, but yeah, talk about multi-role. This being a campaign mission, my objective was to take out this target right here. I have 11 minutes left to do it. Now I did win this in the live stream, and the way that I did it was something that I thought was fun way of doing it. I crawled my force forward. Of course, I had them better grouped. So we're gonna move them forward here. And if you look at these circles, I have these heavy artillery cannons that I built. I researched into long-range accurate shells. Instead of fighting through what amounts to about 30 fucking tanks and infantry out here, what I ended up doing was setting up right here, getting within range, and certain units. Look at this cluster right now. It's chaos. It's freaking chaos. I ended up doing, though, is clicking these gigantic freaking mobile artillery guns, and doing what only certain units can do, which is fire on position. And I fired into the darkness, into the fog of war. And they'll move until they're in range, and then rounds are out, and I shelled it. And I fought smarter, not harder, and it worked. It actually worked out really, really well. The enemy did counterattack like they're doing now, but they had to come to me instead of me fighting through all their defense. Speaking of defense, they're now shelling me. It was really close when I did this earlier. See if I can get these attack helicopters in here to get some fire on that, wherever that artillery is that they happen to have. There it is. There's the artillery. I know you're being fired at, but you have to take this artillery out or we're gonna lose. There's the missiles away.
They're almost ready for launch.
Nice. I've upgraded a lot of my APCs to have Hellfire missiles attached to the side, so every once in a while you shoot them into the air. It's not a normal attack. There's a lot of cool research like that that makes the units really, really useful and really, really fun. Those missiles, there is a defense against them. Like I said, these guys here can actually shoot missiles down, so when the enemy tries it against me, I'll just shoot them out of the sky before they get too close. And that's the kind of fun that you can get in this, is figuring out what units work and how you can win the day. And you can sneak into enemy bases with helicopters full of Marines and actually take over enemy buildings. You can, like you could do the old engineer rush in Command & Conquer. You can build super weapons and try to rush those, or just go full on heavy, Abram tanks. All those strategies work from classic Command & Conquer, and it's a ton of fun. The last thing that I want to show you, I'm hoping that this building dies, but even if it doesn't, I'll just load up the beginning of the campaign. Where the game loses me in the way the campaign works. Now, I loved old school Command & Conquer because the way it told its story, it found a unique and fun way by telling a story through really B-movie cutscenes with live action, with actual actors. They're live action cutscenes. They had Michael Ironside, for God's sakes, in one of the Command & Conquers. I think it might even have been the first one. So how does this game tell its story? Well, here. I'll show you. I'll do the first mission. I'll just launch it. You can see the intro. And all the intros are in this style, which you think is kind of cool after the first 2 missions, but then you just stop caring. And I'll explain that in just a second.
The U.S. ultimatum comes to an end tonight, yet Separatist leader Raul Escobedo still shows no sign of compliance with it. The Mexican army, under-equipped and already trounced once by the Separatists, is in no shape to bring the secession of the República de Nueva California to an end. All indications are that it will be up to the U.S.
So, mixed in stock footage with a little bit of CGI and people, talking heads basically is what you end up getting. Eventually it'll stop with the breaking news stuff, and it'll start telling the story from the perspective of a handful of smaller characters, or you'll get bits and story from the mystery organization that's talking about all their evil deeds that they're doing. But they're saying everything in code words, so it's like, is the Thor operational? They literally mixed the words Thor space shuttle and there was some other ridiculous thing, to the point where you don't care. It's just name dropping all the time. They're talking about companies and corporations that you don't know because they're made up. They're talking, it sounds like somebody put a Tom Clancy novel into a blender, took out all the keywords, all the nouns, and spit out a story. And you just, I like how they're advertising their own game on their billboard. Like, not gonna happen? Can't shoot it? Nope, can't shoot it. Okay. Act of aggression. In game. Yeah, sounds like something EA would do. The story, though, it doesn't have memorable characters. It doesn't have an interesting plot other than, it basically tying together the objectives is all it's really doing. First meeting site. What? Meet Rick. Okay. So the game is fun to play. I wouldn't get it for its story, but the campaign has a lot of interesting mechanics in it and a lot of fun objectives that I found to be a challenge. And maybe you will too. I haven't played the second campaign yet. I have gotten almost all the way through the first one. So I do recommend the game, though. It is a ton of fun. It's about $30 on Steam, so it's not even the price of like a full, EA Command & Conquer game when they first come out. So, and since we haven't had a Command & Conquer in a while, I'm digging it. I'm digging it. Well, if you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button. Tell me in the comments what you guys think. What have you seen so far? And if you've been playing it, what do you think of the game? How is the balance if you're into competitive play too? I am kind of curious. People have been talking about how it's a bit off. Like the American army is really underpowered, though I think it's just a lack of understanding on how to play it. It's a little early to be saying that. Well, we can't actually break the cars with gunfire. All right, guys. I will see you in the next episode. Now I'm going to go rest my throat. At ease, gentlemen. You've served your country well. Are they floating off the ground? No, I guess not. The shadows just look a little off. Later, guys. That's a pile of tires. Everything looks so good on the ground.